It is Billy Quarantillo, a little more than a week removed from what was a scintillating win, if you will, over Alexander Hernandez, who somehow made the weight. It was crazy, he's featherweight now, but it was a great fight, man. Talk to me. How are you feeling about it now, man? It was a great one.
Oh, thank you, John. Yeah, thanks again for having me. And it was awesome. Right after the fight, you were like the first guy I saw after there, so it's always cool. Right after a win, there's nothing better than doing like the media round, seeing all the familiar faces, saying what's up to them. I'm getting used to that now, so it's a good thing, man. And yeah, the fight went pretty much how I expected. I thought I was going to be able to keep a high pace. He did catch me with a really good elbow, so I can remember him by. It's scarred up a little bit up in here, but just a little war wound. Yeah, war wound.
A little bit of tongue
Yeah,
twister.
that's a tongue twister there. A little bit of a battle wound, battle scar. But yeah, it was a high pace fight. I had a lot of nerves going into that fight. Alex is a veteran. He's fought nothing but studs. Cowboy Cerrone, Drew Dober, Moicano, Thiago Moises, Dariush. All those guys are complete studs. So I was interested to see how I would stack up against him. And now I'm just looking forward to the next challenge and the next opportunity.
How long does it take when the fight is over? I wonder for you to kind of get back to normal. And here's what I say: like when I call fights, like let's say I'm broadcasting a CFFC, I can't sleep that night. Like I go back to my hotel room and I'm so amped up from the interview, and that's just me talking about fights, not actually being in a big fight. So, like, how do you switch back into normal mode after? And can you do it the night of?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because this fight and then like 2 fights ago against the Benitez fight, it was the same thing. I couldn't sleep at all. So this fight, we go and we meet up with Sean O'Malley. We actually met him out at a random place, and he's talking about going to this big party and they're gonna get after it. And I was like, oh man, I'd love to do that. And then as the night dragged on, I'm like, oh man, I'm just kind of exhausted. I'm gonna go back to my room. And sure enough, I went back to my room and I couldn't sleep at all. I was just laying there like, oh my god, it's just so crazy. My face is all stitched up. I'm all bruised up, and so I didn't get any sleep that the night of the fight. The next day, starting to kind of feel a little bit more normal again. And then that night I was able to sleep. And it was funny because the night of the fight, I didn't sleep at all. And my face kind of looked okay. Like I was stitched up, but it looked okay. And then that Sunday night, I actually fell asleep and slept pretty good. And I woke up and this eye was all swollen up. And it looked like I had some bruising on my face. And it was funny because it really didn't start to set in until I actually got some rest. So yeah, I'm still kind of getting back into the swing of things. Luckily, I've had a bunch of fights and I'm kind of familiar with it. But it's always definitely a different feeling. I'm getting my sleep schedule back on track, and I'm trying to take these next couple weeks just to kind of recharge and refocus. And I'm expecting to fight early in 2023.
I love it. This was first fight as a dad too, and I kind of wondered what that was like because I remember when I had my son. Before I had my son, I would go away on fight week. I would come home. I'd get home, and my wife would say, "Oh, it's great to have you back. I got a nice dinner for you right here. You know what? I cleaned the house while you were gone." Then the first one came back with the baby, and it was, "Here you go, bro. Like, take
Yeah.
the baby. Like, it's up to you." So what was that like? I mean, was it like, "Hey, I kind of want to like chill. I'm the big fighter," or was it like, "No, Dad, you got some business to handle right now"?
Yeah, it was right back to work, which I was cool with because I actually really missed him because I was gone from the whole fight week. He didn't come out to Vegas with us, so I was away from him all week, and then I flew home Monday morning, and we ended up getting in late Monday, and then yeah, I spent all Monday night with him, and then sure enough, Tuesday morning, I go to feed him in the morning. He pukes right on me, like pukes all over me, and I'm like, oh, this is back to reality now. So that was a quick adjustment, and I'm happy to be back with him. Obviously, I did miss him quite a bit, and he was a huge motivation this whole training camp and the whole fight. I was thinking about him a lot, and I'm just happy that it all worked out good, and he'll be able to look back on these fights like my dad was a badass, and he did a lot of these things for me.
It's awesome, man. So what's your process for reviewing a fight, right? I mean, obviously, in the immediate aftermath, it's tough to relive, I think, all the chaos and that sort of thing. I'm sure when you win, especially, you want to watch it when it's a great fight. But I guess what's your process for reviewing a fight? Like, how much do you watch it? How many times do you watch it over? What are you looking for? How do you kind of, handle that afterwards?
Yeah, it's different sometimes. I remember like the Gavin Tucker fight, like I just didn't want to watch it. I didn't want to watch it after. I like just certain fights, you're just like, oh, and I end up rewatching it just to work on my mistakes. The last few fights I've been pretty comfortable watching. This fight we went back and it was on. Sometimes like you can't get it right away, just depending on where you fight. But this one was still on ESPN Plus, so me and my teammate Matt Frivola watched it right back right away. Because it's always so much different than like kind of how you remembered it. Especially you don't get to hear the commentary until after. You don't get to kind of critique everything. You don't know the outcome when it's happening, so it's really cool to go back and watch. So I've already watched it back a few times. It was only like a 9-minute fight, 10 minutes total. So usually what I'm doing is I'm going back and watching it and trying to put myself back in certain situations, reviewing the mistakes I made. There was definitely a few big mistakes that I made that I can go back and correct. And remembering those mistakes and watching it from a third perspective kind of gives me insight to what my opponents are going to watch, what they're going to look for, because I try to correct my mistakes as soon as possible. Going from this fight, from the Burgos fight, I was really happy with checking kicks. I checked all the kicks that he threw at me. I was happy with not getting hit as much as in the Burgos fight, even though I did take a lot more damage with that one elbow. So there was a lot of positive things I took from it, and then a couple negative things, like a couple big right hands that I didn't really set up. I whiffed pretty good on, and he was able to get positions. Some of those jumping knees turned into jumping kicks that he was able to catch and to capitalize on. So there's a lot, and it's something that I always tell my amateur guys. You could have a perfect fight and there was something you did wrong, and then you could get your ass whooped and there was still something good you could do. So I could always take some of the mistakes from the wins and some of the good stuff from the losses and try to just keep rebuilding and try to be the best fighter I could be.
Now the cut looks like it's healing up nice, and we know we know medically you got diagnosed with that difficult condition of having that dog in you that just can't be removed. But otherwise, how you healing up? I mean, you talked about fighting early next year. I mean, anything else lingering, or we first quarter can we get busy?
Yeah. I think it's gonna be first quarter. It worked out. The schedule. I wanted to. Obviously, I basically skipped Halloween, skipped Thanksgiving, had very moderate plates of food, very safe. So I'm still in like that. I'm still working out a little bit and I'm eating whatever I want. But yeah, what I can tell, I'm really healthy. My knee's been tweaking a little bit, but I think it's good. I think it was on one of those leg checks. But I think when January 2nd comes around, I think I'm going to be back fully in training camp. The eye healed, or my forehead healed really good. I took the stitches out in 4.5 days. So besides that, hands are good, elbows are good, legs are good. So yeah, I'm looking to. I know they've already been booking fights into like March and April, so I'm looking right around that schedule. Hopefully, they go to one of my hometowns, either Buffalo or Tampa. Would love to fight in like one of those local scenes. But besides that, I'm pretty much open to a lot of different places and a lot of different opponents. But yeah, I want to fight at least 3 times in 2023. So I'm looking for like first quarter, summer, and then towards the end of the year, if all things go according to plan.
I love it. Have you gotten any feedback on your call out, man? You're not exactly asking for easy fights out there.
Yeah, well, we've been. I said Edson Barboza gave me one of these emojis, so I think that's a good thing. He's definitely my top choice. Edson Barboza, legend of the sport, highlight reel knockouts. Everyone knows who he is. He's one of those guys that coming up, you're like, oh man, can you imagine fighting that guy? And now I feel like I'm at that point in my career. 5-2, four finishes. I feel like I got a little bit of a say in who I pick. Might as well shoot for the stars. I'd rather fight a guy who is a household name, kind of adds value to beating him. So he's definitely my top choice. There's some other guys that a lot of people are mentioning. So if he says no, or if the UFC just doesn't want that, there's a lot of other guys I can see a lot of fun fights with. So I'm definitely looking forward to a big main card action fight, hopefully with fans again, so I can go out there and put on a really fun performance.
Well, you definitely earned it, man. That was a great one last time. And I should say, in the meantime, auctioning off your fight kit from the other night as well, right? Down Syndrome Foundation of Florida is the organization. I guess I just wanted to ask you, first, how is that an organization that became one that you wanted to support? And second, do you have the details of the auction and everything yet?
Yeah. So I have all the details up there. You can check on my Instagram, my link tree. It's the first link. It's up to $3,500, which I think is really cool. For a bunch of like sweaty, bloody gear that and it's anonymous. So I hope I can figure out who actually bought, like, paid for it, so I could give it to them. I don't know what I'm gonna do if I don't. Because it says anonymous now. I think if I go into the website, I think I can figure it out. But yeah, that's going to end on Thursday. So if this comes out tomorrow or on Thursday, that's going to be the deadline. So Thursday at 6 p.m. I'm going to repost it. But yeah, it's up to 3,500, and the Down Syndrome Foundation of Florida is it's obviously a charity organization right around here in Tampa. I've gone out and supported them a few times. The owner, John Chirando, is a good friend of mine. His son has Down syndrome, and I've met him several times. Just a bundle of joy. Just couldn't be a happier kid. Just super grateful and happy. They do this thing, the Tournament of Champions, every year, where they all come out to this bowling alley. I was lucky enough to go to it last year. Just an amazing event. And since I've known them personally, I've seen where the money has gone. And it's just one of those charities. I know growing up, there was a lot of charities. You don't really know where the money's going. You don't really know if it's really going to help. And this is an organization that I've donated to them before, and I'm happy to donate to them and literally go out and see where the money's going, work the Tournament of Champions, go out there and give a helping hand as much as I can. So it was an easy choice for me for at least this first donation. And moving forward, I want to do as many things as I can to give back to people that don't have as much as that I've been blessed to have.
That's awesome, man. You're going out there and you're putting on great fights, and then you're doing great things in the community in your spare time, man. Cannot ask for much more than that. Great representative of the sport. So, man, Billy Q, fun stuff, dude. I mean, a great fight, and I can't imagine that the next one's going to be any less. It looks like the matchups that are available should be pretty spectacular. Whether it's Barboza or somebody else, looks like we're lined up for a big fight early Q1.
Yeah, man, I can't wait. I'm ready to get back into work. It was a weird feeling, like, after this fight. It was almost like it was a long year of layoffs, and then right after the fight, I was like, oh man, like I wanted to, like, do that again. Like, I want to get back in there, and especially when my name's starting to get a lot more recognition, more traction. I want to strike when the iron's hot and start the year off right with another big win.
Love it, man. Well, listen, I know you're busy being a dad right now too. I've taken enough of your time, so I appreciate you shifting your schedule around, and now go spend some time with your son.
Of course, John. Thanks for having me. Like always, man. I'll see you again in that victory lap.